Hello, this is Dust, and thank you once again for joining me for another World of Tanks video. So today's video is going to be all about the Soviet SU-100 tank destroyer. Tier 6, it's the next tank on from the Su-85 and is based upon the same chassis. They look pretty much identical. The only real differences are that obviously you've got better armour and you have access to the 122mm gun. Which is the same gun that almost the same gun that the KV-1S sports and does huge amounts of damage. So that's pretty enjoyable. That's the gun that you see in front of you there. Okay, so let's take a look at the Russian tech tree. At the top you can see the SU-100. It then splits into the SU-152 or the SU-100 M1 line, which as you can see leads finally to the Object 263. So I'm not a big player of tank destroyers. It's not kind of my style of game necessarily. I prefer the kind of heavier tanks. However, I've been admiring from afar and sometimes at the other end of the Soviet tank destroyers' huge amount of damage output. So for instance the SU-152 and the ISU-152, especially the ones I've run up against the most, and their damage output is actually really quite appealing. As a player who generally plays German tanks, who don't do huge amounts of damage output, as I've mentioned before in videos, they tend to be middle of the road in terms of most things. It's actually nice to try and grind up to the point where you can do 700 damage in one shot. It's always very attractive while not playing artillery. So the SU-100. Let's take a look at this then. Now, common wisdom dictates that most people who play the SU-100, they tend to pick one of two guns. Your two choices are the SU-100, sorry, not the SU, the 100mm or the 122mm. Both guns are very capable. They both have the same penetration with normal ammo. With gold ammo you get slightly more pen on the 100mm. The damage, as you can see, is significantly different. You get 230 with 100 and 390 average with the 122. But then you have to make your choice. You either get slightly better accuracy, even though not very good, with 100, and an aiming time of 2.3, or you get a worse accuracy and over half a second more aiming time with the 122. So you kind of take your choice really. Most people would probably go with the 122 because tank destroyers tend to be more about alpha damage than about repeatedly firing the gun. I mean, as you can see, the rate of fire is almost half that of the 100. For instance, with myself, even with the gun rammer and crew at about 85%, I think, I've got 11-second reload time. So you have to manage your shots carefully. So those are the choices. I'm running with the 122, although one of the videos I'm going to show you has the 100 on, so you can take a look at the differences. Quick run through the stats. 580 hit points. How does this compare with the other tanks? The other tier 6 tank destroyers? It's actually not too bad. You got the German Dickermax, the premium tier 6. That's got 550. The Jagdpanther, at about 600, and the ARL V39 at 610. So it's not too bad in terms of the hit points. In terms of the speed limit, it's reasonably okay once it gets up to speed. It's not the fastest to accelerate, but it isn't bad at all. You've got hull armor 75, 45, 45. Again, it's better than Dickermax. It's not as good as the Jagdpanzer with 80, 40, 20, but it's better than the French ARL 60, 40, 60. So that's as you'd expect. However, what marks this tank destroyer out, one of its better capabilities, is the actual the gun arc. So how far the gun can move from left to right. The SU-100, compared to its peers in the same tier, has a -12, +12 arc. Now that is incredibly good. The Dickermax, for instance, only has -8, +8. The Jagdpanzer has -10, +10, and the ARL has -7, +7. So it's got the best gun arc, which means you don't have to keep moving your chassis. So that's a definite plus for a tank destroyer who's trying to stay hidden. The elevation, so the elevation, how far it goes up and how far it comes down the depression. It can go down 6 degrees and up 20. How does that compare with the other tanks? Well, the Dickermax, if you've ever seen one, you'll notice that the gun depression on Dickermax is ridiculously good. It's -15, so it can almost shoot its own tracks. The Jag the Panzer has -5, so its elevation, its depression is only slightly worse than the SU-100, and the ARL V39 is -10. So its depression is not bad, and you'll see the depression in a game shortly. And I'll be playing with a Dicamax on my platoon, so you'll be able to see how well the Dicamax can decline their gun. And in terms of damage output, as I said earlier on, 400 you can get 390 average damage out of the 122mm gun, compared to 300 for the Dicamax, 220 for the Jag Panzer, and 240 for the ARL V39. So that's enough of me flinging statistics at you. Now I'm going to get into some games. So I'm going to show you a few replays which shows you just how good this tank destroyer can be. And also it's actually quite bouncy. This armour at the front, it's of a sufficient armour rating now to actually bounce some shots, whereas I never really bounced a great deal in the SU-85. Even though it's the same chassis, the armour really wasn't up to bouncing shots. So you'll see quite a few bounces in this, which is very pleasing. On to the replays. Okay, so the map is Ruinberg, and I am in the SU-100 with the 100mm gun, not the 122mm gun. The whole team has pretty much lemminged into town, leaving the countryside part of the map open and undefended. So myself and a Panzer III-4 have opted to defend. We can't really push into the countryside very much because we haven't got a clue what we'll be facing, and to be honest, I don't traverse very quickly. We could easily get overwhelmed and destroyed. So I'm figuring stick by the buildings, let's spot and see what happens. So the rest of the team go into town, and they're doing okay considering they've taken all our tanks. They really should be doing considerably better, but it's kind of even Stevens at the moment. I decide to push up basically because it doesn't seem like anything's coming, and they could do with a hand down the middle road. So I push up. Panzer III-4 comes with me at my request. As it turns out, because we chat after the game, he was paying attention and was quite keen to try and win this game, which is always good news. So hang a right. Unexpectedly see Matilda pop up there, which I managed to knock out. Obviously, game's on now. You can see that the reload of the gun being quick actually makes quite a difference here. Would this have been the same with the 122? I'm not so sure. 122 would have done more damage, but the accuracy would have been a lot less. So dealt with the couple of tanks there with the help of the 3-4. I'm going to push up and try and help out the middle. Now the VK3601 is a bit of a hero here, I thought. He's facing 2, potentially 3 heavy tanks there in the middle. We want to try and give him a hand. Facing frontally probably wouldn't have been helping him much, and we could get exposed. I'm really worried that these KV-1Ss have got the big 122mm gun, which does about 400 damage. As we're rushing across, we see the SU-85. He was at low health, so we make quick, short work of him. Keep on pushing around, but I see from the minimap that they've started to push around the corner, which is incredibly frustrating for us. They either got lucky or they saw us coming and adjusted accordingly. The VK3601 still fighting a hero's battle against 2 heavy Russian tanks, but finally goes down, which means that they can now have concentration on us. Now I'm really wary that they've got the big gun, as I said. I don't really know what the big gun looks like, which is shame on me because I should know. So I wasn't really sure. I'm definitely one-shottable in that instance. I do know now what the big gun looks like because I've gone and researched it, but when this game was played I didn't. So plus UK in the 3-4 is keeping them spotted. I'm really hoping our artillery kind of pitches in here, but he doesn't. Not sure whether this is because he doesn't have an angle. I think he probably did, but anyway, he's not helping us here. So I'm kind of thinking about what I could do to get an angle. I'm maybe waiting for them to come forward. I really don't want to get hit. It's close quarters, their gun's inaccurate, but it's not going to miss me. So I type into chat to get the 3-4 to go and cap. At least it'll put pressure on, maybe bleed one of their tanks off. And I decide that I'm going to try and go around the back, but I'm thinking that as they saw me move off, I saw them move forward. 3-4 goes down, unfortunately, which means that they are now likely going to rush me. I know I would if I was them, so I back up and try and seek cover, because I'm not going to last very long at all. It's now just me and the artillery versus their 2 tanks and a premium Panzer IV. So I'm going to use this SU-85 wreck and wait, and let's see what we can do. Panzer IV gets spotted by our artillery, so at least I know he's not going to creep up behind me. KB-1S rushes around a corner and I put him down. 1 down, 2 to go. His companion is not going to be quite as foolish though. I bounce, I fire at him and hit the wreck. Wasn't a very well aimed shot. He takes out one of my tracks. I don't take any damage, so I still don't know what sort of gun he's got. We lose our arty. Now at this point I try a side scraper manoeuvre. For those of you unfamiliar with that, what you do is you basically back out from behind cover, only exposing your rear and your sides at an acute angle, so hopefully shots will bounce to the point where you can then fire, as he just did. It bounced. I'm expecting him to have a long reload if he's got the big gun, but I rush my shot and he punishes me by putting a shot into my sides, which gets eaten by the tracks for no damage. So great, got a shot in him, he missed, but we are being capped, so the pressure's really on now, because there's no one left to challenge the person capping. So he hits me for 109 damage, so I now know he doesn't have the big gun, which means he can't put me down in one shot, which is great. So I aim and I wait up as I now have the upper hand. Great, so kill him, and I've got about 50 seconds to get back to the base and to damage the Panzer IV Schmalturm. It's fairly nimble TD, even with track damage, so I'm confident I can make it back in time, but I don't know where the Schmalturm's going to be. I'm expecting him to be around that corner on the left, just behind the building. So what I decide to do is hang a left right now, try and take him by surprise. Then I changed my mind, don't know why, because I'm expecting him to expect me to be there as he was. His turret was turned, but I realise I can shoot him through this phone box. Great, so the cap's reset, pressure's off now, got a little bit of time, so I back up. I don't think this guy really knows what he's doing as he stays still, so I set him on fire. Another shot, and that seals the deal. So that actually worked really well. 5 kills, very nice. Okay, so the next game was on Ruinberg, and this was the first game that I had with the new 122mm gun. 390 damage average, 175 pen. As we start on the right hand side, I move over to my favourite spot as a tank destroyer, where you can really cause some havoc if the enemy team aren't paying attention. And that is just up by the house in the centre of the screen that you can see here. There's a house there and a rock, and in between the two is a nice gap with a bush, which is perfect for tank destroyer work. So I approach this off the one side in case I get some kind of weird early spotting. Take up position, eventually, a little bit of jockeying. There we go. Not entirely happy with this position, so I just move off to the left slightly, just so I've got a wider field of view. And this is where you see that the gun arc is actually very nice indeed. Take a good chunk, myself and another tank, I didn't see who it was, out of that Jagdpanther. And I have a Jagdpanther to my left now, so we're both pulling tank destroyer duty. As you can see, very satisfying damage you do with the tanks that you fire at. I've not had too many problems with the accuracy of the gun either, although it's 0.43 accuracy. On the whole, it hits more often than it misses. Just skipped a little bit of footage. So both myself and the Jagdpanther take chunks out of the IS, so he's down to 50% health from full, even before he hits our guys in the south. So it's quite a valuable hit for us guys. As you can see, the reload isn't too bad. 11 seconds is one of those things, I guess. I mean, I'm used to driving the KB-1S, so it's a very similar gun, very similar reload times. With the amount of damage you do, you can't really complain. I was expecting the IS here to maybe back up around the corner, but he doesn't. It's round about now that I noticed on the mini-map that we've got Heavy pushing up, the Tiger P pushing up there. He's being held at bay by the SU-100M, but I'm not sure how long he's going to last against the Tiger P. So I back up just to take stock of the situation, put myself behind cover, try and warn the Jagdpanther in chat that we got company, and then I move up to try and help out. Jagdpanther's now paying attention and he follows me up. Obviously got a problem in the middle of the map here. Although we're holding the north and we're doing well in the south/west, we could have a problem here in the middle. So the SU-100 is doing pretty well for himself, but I try and lend a hand. Rush my shot, but fortunately, A, he had his turret turned so it penetrated, and B, it was actually accurate for once. So I'll take a shot at his track, and it tracks him, but not in time to save the SU-100, sadly. I get a reload and I take another shot at the only part of the tank that I can hit, and I hope I actually do damage, which I do, which is great. He also gets some splash from RT as well. The Jagdpanther to my right gets taken down by a hitherto unseen SU-100. Aha, there he is. He's on very low health. I know I can put him down in one shot. That was actually a fairly easy kill. Didn't have to make much of an effort there. Hang on for the reload. Tiger P's distracted by the tanks to the north, so this is going to be a nice easy shot providing I hit. Which means just the Panther now to take care of. But as you can see from the minimap, and as I spot very shortly, he's actually gone back to try and help with the base cap, which is the right thing to do, albeit a little bit late. So this battle ends very soon. The ELC, I put a shot in on him, but I miss, and the game ends due to capping. Replay 3, find ourselves on steps, and we find ourselves with the entire team, initially anyway, going off to the right flank, or left on the minimap. Myself, I am platooned with George K. He's in the Dickomax. Now, I've never seen the Dickomax in action before, so this was interesting to me, but the gun depression on Dickomax is absolutely amazing, which is very, very nice for these kind of rolling sorts of countryside where you're firing down on people or you're using the hills to play peekaboo. So we decide, look, with the only two tank destroyers over here, defending potentially against could be quite a lot. Let's hang back. Let's not be too smart, not overcommit ourselves, because God knows I've done that enough times and just get surrounded and killed. We don't have to wait very long. Here's our first customer, an M7. I put in a sneaky shot here, not expecting to hit. Well, what do you know? Awesome. He backs off down the hill. Is it just the medium? Could we be lucky? No. Here's a light and another medium. I try and aim and predict where they're going, so I lose the ability to have a shot. So I deal with the, or try to deal with this medium. Get a good hit. Again, the gun's being nice and accurate, but he is close. I'm not going in for the ram, but he gets a fluky shot, takes out my gun. And as I wheel rounds, George is also wheeling back, and he's being smart, and he's moving back and traversing at the same time, increasing his traverse speed, and we deal with the Panzer III-4. I move forward to try and use the hill to shield the bulk of my body, use my gun depression, get a nice solid hit, and I set him on fire, which is always very welcome. From what I could see, the KV-1Ss are all armed with the 122mm guns, effectively the same gun that I've got, so I know they can do about 400 damage. So I finish off the guy I set on fire earlier, just to make sure he's gone. George takes a massive hit, unfortunately, and he's down to almost no hit points. I think he got hit twice. There's no artillery in the game, so that makes our life a little bit easier. We're definitely dominating the game now. Most of their tanks were committed to this flank, and we're keeping them at bay. Definitely have the dominant position up here. I think George was saying he got derped by that T-49 using HE, and of course if you have an open top vehicle, such as his tank destroyer, HE does a lot of damage. Not sure where this last tank's gone. That was down here, so I'm kind of inching along, can't see him. Then I notice on the mini-map, there he's off to the left-hand side, and rather foolishly, I miscount and I don't realise that there's another tank there, and he hits me in the side. Fortunately, a low damage roll. His average is 390, he only does 314, so I kind of get lucky. So I quickly move away from the side there, in case I've actually miscounted and there are other tanks there as well. He's despotted, but the threat to our left is still there, and he pops up again on the mini-map. Quickly twist round. I put in a shot, and he gets finished by one of my teammates. We got the cap on now, we got a lot of people in the cap circle, so this ends with us capping. I don't actually get another clear shot on the remaining KV-1S, but he's the last member of their team to survive. Okay, on to the last replay. Again, we're with Fjords. Again, we start on the right hand side. I'm with George K. George K's in the Cromwell. Because we're in two very distinctly different types of vehicles here, he's going to go off left down to the south and do some scouting and hopefully some killing. And I'm going to take up the same spot as I did earlier, because basically it's a good spot to hit the enemy team hard. We have an ELC AMX scouting up towards their base there, does a really good job of lighting up what tanks they've got and where they're going. So I'll tuck in as I did before, and I reposition as I did before. Now the gun arc of the SU-100 is just enough to cover this whole kind of gap here, which is great. T-34-85 has gone down the back of that, on the bit that's near the river. Here they all start to come. So sport for targets at the moment. And then it turns out that actually I'm not. Can't hit the SU-85, but the Panzer 38, who I thought was behind the rock, actually isn't. So I preempt, and the gun doesn't let me down. I'm pretty sure I'll have been spotted by now. So there's the wreck that I've just actually created is shielding the SU-85. I'm not confident that he is not there anymore, that he is there anymore. So I concentrate on this target instead. So that's all the scouts taken out, which is good news for our artillery. Again, the SU-85 has been shielded by that wreck. And I see him moving forward, and again, there's no shot. Loving these new echoey sound effects. I think Wargaming have done a great job with that. I really like it. Good ambience. Generally when artillery fire, I think. Or larger calibers anyway. Okay, so we're going up into the middle of the map, because once again it seems to have collapsed. Very similar to the previous replay I showed you. So I'm going to push up and see what I can do. Missed the Cromwell, sadly. Got the M7 here. Hasn't seen me, but he doesn't stop. So I'm going to have a look at the Jackson, or the Slugger as it used to be called. I don't know why Wargaming renamed it. But anyway, he goes down. M7 now in a position where I can hit him. He has his rear to me, which is always good news in terms of tank warfare. But I get a slightly low damage roll, and he gets away with 23 of his hit points left. That almost comes back to haunt me later. So unfortunately this guy's in the way, but I take a shot which I think is a little bit risky, given the accuracy of the gun, but he was fairly close to me. I was hoping I didn't miss, and I didn't. But I don't hit the M7. I haven't been watching the minimap as closely as I should, and I see that I'm now actually getting attacked from behind. So I quickly move, repair my ammo rack, and move around that corner, but I know that I'm now exposing my side to the M7. I've got to kill him fast. He bounces. I kill him, I back up just in the nick of time as a Cromwell comes around a corner and I disappear to face him. Now I have my front armour facing him, I feel a bit more confident. Now the Cromwell player is obviously experienced because he doesn't kind of come out to try and take me on. He knows, I think, what my gun can do, and as you'll see over the next minute or two, he really does know what he's doing. Trying to get a bead on him. There's a lot of enemy moving in now. We really don't hold a very good position here. We're strong in the north, but nowhere else. It's not looking very good at all. Nevertheless, I see on my minimap I've got a KV-1S bearing down from behind me. I can't hang about here for very long. He's being engaged by another heavy in the middle. I bounce a shot from the 3001P. And I'm a bit worried about where the BDR's gone, and the T-34 for that matter. The KV-1S has killed the heavy in the middle of the map. Now he's bearing down on me. I've really got to move. This is not ideal for me. The Cromwell, however, can't shoot at me just yet, so I tuck in behind this building, the only cover that's available, and I'll try and take him down. KV-1S has disappeared. He bounces off my side. So I back up, trying to keep the cover between me and him. KV-1S comes rushing around a corner. I land a solid hit, I track him and I set him on fire. Unfortunately, before he dies, he puts in a solid hit on me, which means now I'm incredibly weak, very, very vulnerable to the Cromwell. Cromwell damage hits my tracks. I try and hit him under the building, but that's never going to happen. Not with this gun. Going for the reload. We're being capped. I want to try and get this guy if I can. We exchange fire. But his speed of fire beats mine. We end up losing the game. But them's the breaks. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will catch you next time. Cheers.